Remember Avatar 1 and how huge it got? We were all running to the cinema with drinks and popcorn in our hands to watch what everyone was saying was the biggest movie of all time. And it was in 3D. Yep, those were the days. Now, years later, we have Avatar 2, and it's already a success that it broke the record held by Spider-Man No Way Home. Let's talk more in this video. Starting off with the records break. Avatar: The Way of Water has delivered an unsurprising hit on opening weekend. Were we at all worrying about the success of this movie? It was 13 years in the making. Of course, it was going to be really good. And it's by James Cameron. Everything the man touches turns to gold. Though this gold came a bit sooner than we were expecting because it's already broken a record that was held by Spider-Man No Way Home previously. And that movie's record was post-pandemic, so it was even bigger. People were clamoring for the theaters like kids run out of schools when the bell rings. We were all finally free to watch our favorite movies in cinemas with our friends and a bursting bladder because no way we were going to miss even 3 minutes of the movie. Good times. Now, as Black Panther: Wakanda Forever winds down the peak of its run, a new challenger emerges, and that challenger is Avatar 2. After the highest grossing movie of all time, Cameron has a lot to live up to, and expectations were running high when we all saw the visually spectacular trailer and all its promotional campaigns. We all wanted him to give something better than the first movie, and that was definitely going to be a huge task. And it was even more difficult because the theater industry is not quite what it used to be after suffering through the pandemic. But there were two movies, Top Gun 2 and No Way Home, that proves movies can still break records and have overwhelming success. But can Avatar 2 do the same? Well, after smashing one record, things are looking rather positive. Let's talk about the big numbers. It's been dominating the weekend sales. One box office guru named Luis Fernando shares on Twitter how Avatar: The Way of Water had broken one record held by No Way Home. Having grossed $53 million domestically on the Friday opening, Avatar 2 took home $76.7 million overseas, overtaking No Way Home's $67.2 million and Doctor Strange 2's $53.6 million. It's now become the biggest sale of the post-pandemic era. This highly impressive opening resulted in a total of $127.1 million international gross and $180.1 million global result. We can now very clearly see the movie going towards $290 million to $300 million 5-day opening overseas and a total global result of $415 to $435 million. But despite all the success that it's received overseas, the domestic number, which is $53 million, including $17 million in previews, is pretty underwhelming. Weren't the Americans the most excited about the release of the movie by their good director? While internationally the movie sits at number 1 with its opening weekend sales, domestically it's not doing so good, with it placed as the 44th biggest domestic opening of all time and only the 6th biggest Friday of the pandemic era, after just passing the $52 million of Top Gun Maverick. We expected better from the Americans, to be honest. Maybe we're all now comfortable enough with our Netflix and easy access to washrooms after hitting the pause button. Not to forget that we can eat and drink whatever we want, and nobody would bat an eye at us or judge us. Theaters don't really give that comfort. Now, the verdict. But now the question is Avatar 2 disappointing or succeeding? If you're old enough to remember, the first Avatar flick saw a similar pattern as, out of its original $2.74 billion box office gross, only $749.7 million came from the United States. The other $2 billion came from its international results. It looks like the second one is also seeing similar success internationally, while not doing so great domestically. It's not awfully surprising anymore when we look at this pattern, but what are the reasons for this result? We may never know, because if we remember correctly, Netflix wasn't all that big a deal back then. Maybe it's just that the people of the United States don't like watching fictional colonization. They want to do it in real life. We gotta now focus more on Elon Musk and his dreams of colonizing Mars. We hope they don't find any tall blue people there. Anyway, back to it. The long-awaited sequel's expected $415 to $435 million global opening competes well with the $242.5 million of the 2009 original. Obviously, the first Avatar succeeded so well based on the long legs it had to keep winning for weeks on end. We just gotta sit and watch if The Way of Water is gonna show its own, even longer legs to take over its original. But were you really expecting that it was gonna win against the first one? Guys, it's very possible that it may not even surpass No Way Home. And that one had a larger worldwide opening of $587.2 million. Moving on, no big competitors. But it's very possible that happened because fans wanted to rush over to the cinema to avoid the multiversal spoilers. 3 Spider-Man, geez, it's been a year and we still get goosebumps. The Way of Water won't be relying on any of these tools though, so James Cameron and Disney hope this film's visual spectacle and brand recognition will be enough to keep it going for a long time, especially during the festive season when it can capitalize off the happy holiday spirit of everyone, just like the first movie's mid-December 2009 release. And we also believe it can do pretty well because it doesn't really have any major competition until February, when Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania will release. That's going to be a small battle in itself. Will Kang the Conqueror wipe out the Martians? Only time will tell. Megan will unquestionably make a splash with horror fans in mid-January, although that won't be any threat to Avatar 2's supremacy. There's no competition between the two, come on. Of course, Spider-Man: No Way Home set quite a few records for the post-pandemic era, as it was important to resurrecting theaters. We're never gonna forget just how crazy we all got when we realized the movie was actually gonna release in theaters. Lastly, the next sequels. Even though it did set many records, many of them are gonna be surpassed. Still, Avatar 2 got over the first major challenge, anticipation-wise, to No Way Home's supremacy. And movie fans, no worries because there will be more to come in the coming years. But as of yet, no film since the pandemic started has been able to cross the $2 billion mark. 2019's Avengers Endgame was the last, with No Way Home coming the closest with $1.9 billion. Will The Way of Water be the next to smash this record? We'll see. With the way things are going though, we do believe that the opening shows us positive signs with the fact that it might follow a similar pattern to the first one, in the sense that it'll achieve long-term international success, even in the home of the people who made the movie, with Cameron having already filmed a 9-hour cut of Avatar 3 and started early works on the 4th. He surely needs this one to succeed after committing so much to this franchise. We can see that the early numbers in a positive light are a guarantee he'll get the go-ahead to push with the next 2 sequels, and that's going to be pretty exciting news to many who've dedicated themselves to being fans of the movies. Now let's talk about what other box office records The Way of Water can break. Firstly, the biggest records. Sure, Avatar: The Way of Water opened to a massive $134 million at the domestic box office, making it James Cameron's best opening weekend box office by far. But it's going to need an industry-defying push to get past the total box office earnings of the original Avatar and Titanic. Cameron has already made the highest-grossing movie of all time twice with Avatar, which still holds the all-time record, and Titanic. We all remember how Titanic and Avatar rose to the top of all-time box office charts. They weren't by any chance conventional means. So now, if Avatar 2 is to break the record of the 2 other gigantic movies, it's going to need to have some very long and untiring legs to come even close to the previous 2 records. Next up, The 5 Elites. But it does seem possible because of its opening weekend sales internationally. The other 2 movies didn't have that, so that's already a pretty huge deal. The movie is a huge bet because it requires $2 billion to break even at the box office. Can you imagine? It'll need to make at least $2 billion to start making a profit. According to the filmmaker's estimates, you have to be the 3rd or 4th highest grossing film in history. That's your threshold. That's your break even. So there you go. Fans, you gotta make sure it gets at least that, because then it'll be breaking records left and right and get up to the elite list of 5 movies that have crossed that mark. So if Avatar: The Way of Water wants to break even, the film will need to surpass either Star Wars: The Force Awakens or Avengers: Infinity War. Last of all, more records coming soon. There are a few other records that it could break internationally, like it's been the biggest opener in India already, and has now broken the lifetime record of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And are any of us even remotely surprised? This is just India's box office record that we're seeing. There are so many other countries where the movie's already broken any records held by either the first Avatar or Avengers Endgame. And with the way the numbers are increasing and all the James Cameron and the Avatar franchise fans are hurrying to the cinemas to make sure the movie makes at least $2 billion, we can see many other records being broken. That's it from our side for today. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or thoughts about Avatar 2 breaking the box office record that was previously held by Spider-Man: No Way Home, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.